Get out of the car, now! Put your hands on your head and don't do anything, or you'll see what we can do." The shrill, piercing, and fake authoritative scream of a young female police officer, perhaps new to the profession, resounded defiantly in the middle of the crowded, noisy street during the afternoon rush hour. The red and blue lights on the roof of the New York Police Department, NYPD Ford Interceptor patrol car, flashed continuously, like a giant eye scrutinizing, attracting the curious attention and even the frustrated head shakes of dozens of passers-by, who were rushing home after a tiring day at work. The man sitting in the shiny jet-black Rolls-Royce Phantom, an undeniable symbol of extreme wealth and absolute power, slightly furrowed his thick eyebrows. A hint of annoyance flashed across his angular, sunburned face. "What's wrong? Officers? Am I breaking any traffic laws?" he asked, his voice low, even, and utterly calm, though inside him, a small flame of irritation and even contempt was beginning to burn. He wasn't used to being ordered around so rudely. "Don't ask too many questions or try to be smart here." Another male cop, who looked older, pot-bellied, and much more aggressive, walked up from behind, his lime-yellow taser ready to unleash a deadly shock. "Do as we say, or you'll be knocked out right here, in front of everyone." He gritted his teeth, his voice full of menace. What the hell is really going on? He, a world-famous tycoon, a veteran shark in the international business world full of traps, a man whose name alone is enough to make many people tremble, many giant corporations wary, is now being stopped in the middle of the road by two lowly policemen who have probably never touched a car like this in their entire lives, and treated like a street criminal. What is so suspicious about the Rolls-Royce Phantom, a work of art in the automobile industry, that he has to be stopped so rudely? Or does his exquisitely tailored Armani suit, tailored to every detail, look like stolen goods, borrowed goods? Or more simply, more cruelly, just because he was a successful, wealthy black man, and that, like a thorn in the eye, irritated and annoyed those who carried narrow-minded prejudices and deeply ingrained racist thoughts? Was this a silly mistake, a rare incident due to the incompetence of these two policemen? Or was it an elaborate trap, a plot deliberately set against him, against his reputation and career? And did these two policemen, who were giving themselves the right to judge others, who were intoxicated with the small, temporary power that the uniform brought, know that they were foolishly poking a giant hornet's nest, an underground force that they could never imagine? A force that could crush them into ashes with just a wave of the hand. It all started out fairly normally, even a little boring, about 15 or 20 minutes earlier, on a midweek Wednesday afternoon. Mr. Reginald "Reggie" Thorne, an African-American self-made billionaire, a venture capitalist with bold decisions and resounding successes, and the chairman and chief executive officer, CEO, of a giant multinational corporation operating in many fields from finance, real estate, technology, to renewable energy, had just finished a very tense and long meeting with important business partners from Asia in the luxurious conference room on the top floor of a glass and steel skyscraper in the bustling financial center of New York City, Wall Street. He is known in the global business community as a cold, decisive, intelligent, sharp man who never compromises or backs down in the fierce business world. But few people know that, behind that ironclad, somewhat cruel appearance. Reggie Thorne is a generous philanthropist, a person who always silently and quietly uses a large part of his assets to help people in difficult circumstances, disadvantaged communities, especially in the fields of education and healthcare for children. That afternoon, after the meeting ended with important agreements signed, instead of letting his loyal personal chauffeur, a former SEAL, take him back to his luxurious penthouse overlooking Central Park as usual, Reggie Thorne decided to take his beloved Rolls-Royce Phantom drophead coupe, an extremely rare and expensive convertible version, for a drive around the city to clear his mind. He has a special passion for luxury and speed cars. He loves the feeling of being free to drive, to glide on crowded streets, to immerse himself in the hustle and bustle of New York, a city that never sleeps, a city that has given him everything: money, fame, power, and challenges. He wore a perfectly tailored navy blue three-piece Armani suit, tailored to the last detail, that accentuated the tall, muscular frame of a man who regularly works out. Underneath was a pristine white Brioni shirt in fine Egyptian silk, and a burgundy Hermès silk tie with a delicate pattern. On his left wrist was a white gold Patek Philippe Sky Moon Tourbillon, a masterpiece of watchmaking, a limited edition that he had paid a huge sum for, a gift to himself after a highly successful M&A deal a few years ago. His appearance exuded the utmost elegance, the undisguised power, and the absolute confidence, almost arrogance, of a man accustomed to standing on top of the world. As he was leisurely driving his luxury car on Fifth Avenue, one of the most famous and luxurious shopping streets in the world, amidst the crowded and chaotic traffic and high-end fashion stores of top brands such as Gucci, Prada, Louis Vuitton, suddenly, a Ford Interceptor utility patrol car of the New York Police Department appeared out of nowhere, honking its siren loudly and turning on its red and blue emergency lights from behind, continuously flashing its headlights to signal him to pull over immediately. Reggie Thorne was a little surprised and a little confused. He was 100% sure that he had not violated any traffic laws. He quickly glanced at the speedometer on the dashboard. The needle pointed exactly at 25 miles per hour, the speed limit on this stretch of road. He had not changed lanes abruptly, had not run a red light, and had not used his cell phone while driving. So what was the reason he was stopped, not wanting to attract any unnecessary attention? Reggie Thorne slowly and gently maneuvered his nearly 20-foot-long luxury car to the right side of the road, stopping right in front of a famous Tiffany & Co. jewelry store, which was crowded with tourists and passers-by. He calmly rolled down the electric window, turned off the engine, and waited to see what would really happen next. Two police officers stepped out of the somewhat old patrol car. One was a fairly young female officer, her long blonde hair tied back in a high ponytail, her face pretty, good-looking but somewhat arrogant and complacent. Her plastic name tag pinned to her uniform chest read Officer K. O'Malley. With her was an older male officer, probably close to retirement age, with a hulking body, a potbelly from drinking too much beer, and a face that showed fatigue, boredom, and dissatisfaction with life. His name tag read Sergeant M. Duffy. Officer O'Malley was the one who approached Reggie Thorne's car first. She didn't even bother to greet him politely, but instead used a commanding, disrespectful tone. "Your vehicle registration and driver's license. Please show them now." "Good afternoon, officer. Is there something wrong? Am I doing something wrong?" Reggie Thorne asked again, his voice still calm and polite, but now cold and distant. He did not like being ordered around so unceremoniously and uncivilly, no matter who they were. "We have reason to suspect that this car is stolen or connected to some crime," Sergeant Duffy interjected, his voice as rough and harsh as a mill. "A new Rolls-Royce Phantom, out-of-state registration, driven by someone who doesn't look like a proper person. All of that is very suspicious." Sergeant Duffy's words, though not direct, were blatantly racist and unacceptable. Reggie Thorne frowned, a very slight frown, but enough to show his displeasure. "Inappropriate? What do you mean?" "Sergeant, what we mean is," Officer O'Malley interjected, her voice full of challenge and a hint of provocation. "People of your type are not normally capable of owning or driving expensive cars like this, unless they are thieves, robbers, or hired drivers. Now, please produce your identification and vehicle registration immediately, or we will have to take stronger, more drastic measures." Reggie Thorne felt a real anger, a rage he had tried to suppress for so long, begin to flare up in his chest. He had been used to this kind of stupid prejudice, this kind of stare, this kind of contempt all his life, from when he was a poor black boy growing up in the slums to when he became a billionaire, a figure of global influence. But he could never accept it, never ignore it. "Officers," he said, his voice now as sharp as a knife, devoid of any false politeness. "I would like to inform you that I am the legal and sole owner of this car, and I am under no obligation to explain to you why I am driving it, or where I got the money to buy it. However, to avoid unnecessary trouble and to save both parties valuable time, I will show you the papers upon request." He reached into the inside pocket of his expensive Armani suit, pulled out his handcrafted alligator wallet from Florence, and slowly withdrew his international driver's license and his own car registration. Officer O'Malley roughly snatched the papers from Reggie's hands, glanced at them briefly, and tossed them to Sergeant Duffy, who was standing next to him. Sergeant Duffy examined the papers a little more closely, then nodded knowingly, but his eyes were still filled with doubt. "The papers appear to be in order, but we still need to check a few more details to be sure. Please step out of the car so we can work." "Why do I have to get out of the car?" Reggie Thorne asked, his patience running thin. "You have no valid reason to keep me here any longer. You're wasting my time. We have reason to suspect that you are transporting contraband, possibly illegal drugs or weapons, in this vehicle," Officer O'Malley said brazenly, her hand already on the Glock 19 pistol at her side, a clear, threatening gesture. "If you do not cooperate, we will be forced to consider this as resisting an officer, and the consequences will be severe." That was the last straw. Reggie Thorne could stand it no longer. He was not a man to be bullied or intimidated. He had built a vast business empire from scratch, and had faced and defeated countless enemies far more powerful and cunning than these two small-minded, short-sighted cops. "Listen up, you two young cops," Reggie Thorne said, his voice now ominously low, with a menace that could not be ignored. "I don't know who or what you think you are, but you're making a very, very big mistake. You're deliberately harassing an innocent citizen, a full taxpayer, a man who probably contributes more to the city than the two of you combined in a year. Now, give me back my papers and get the hell out of here before I get really angry. And believe me, you don't want to see me angry." Reggie Thorne's powerful words and absolute confidence, instead of making the two inexperienced policemen hesitate and think again, on the contrary, irritated them even more. They felt like they were being looked down upon and humiliated by someone they considered inferior to them. "Oh, look who's threatening the police. Now you're acting like a thug, threatening the officers of the law, you nouveau riche snob," Sergeant Duffy roared, his already red face now red as a fighting cock's. "Let me show you what the law is in New York City. Let me show you who's in charge here." He turned to Officer O'Malley, who was standing beside him with an agitated look on his face. "O'Malley, put this son of a bitch in handcuffs for resisting and threatening a police officer on duty. That's enough to get him in jail." Officer O'Malley, with a smug smile on his face, quickly pulled a pair of shiny steel handcuffs from the leather holster on his belt, approached the car door, intending to open it and pull Reggie Thorne out to handcuff him. But Reggie Thorne had no intention of letting them do that easily. He was not a lamb who would let them do whatever they wanted. In a split second, a brief but all-changing moment before O'Malley's hand could touch the car door handle, Reggie Thorne quickly pulled his gold-plated, diamond-encrusted Virtu signature S from his inside pocket. He didn't call his personal lawyer, even though he had a team of the best lawyers in the world at his disposal. He pressed a single number on the keypad, a special phone number, a phone number that only a few people in the world, the most powerful people, could own. The other end of the line picked up immediately, without a single ring. A deep, husky voice, full of authority and the inherent fatigue of someone who had worked too much, rang out. Mr. Thorne, is there anything urgent I can help you with? It was the voice of NYPD Chief Inspector Mike Miller, head of the Internal Affairs and Anti-Corruption Division of the entire New York City police force. Someone Reggie Thorne had worked with several times in the past, when he needed to solve some sensitive, complicated issues related to the security of his giant corporation, issues that could not be made public in the press. "Good afternoon, Chief Inspector Miller," said Reggie Thorne, his voice calm and polite but full of hidden meaning. "I'm having a little trouble. A misunderstanding on Fifth Avenue, in front of Tiffany & Co. Two of your officers, a young lady named O'Malley and an older-looking sergeant named Duffy, are trying to arrest me for absolutely no reason and are using inappropriate, insulting language. Would you mind sending someone more competent, more sensible to clear this up? I'm really afraid that if this situation continues, it might attract some unwanted media attention, and I don't think that's good for any of us. Do you, Chief Inspector?" There was silence on the other end of the phone for a few seconds. A heavy, ominous silence. Reggie Thorne could clearly hear Chief Inspector Mike Miller's intake of breath, first of surprise, then of horror. My God, Mr. Thorne, I am so sorry for this unacceptable incident. This is definitely a serious misunderstanding, an unforgivable negligence on the part of my subordinates. I will be there immediately. Please remain calm and do not do anything. I will handle everything properly. Chief Inspector Mike Miller's voice was now filled with panic, urgency, and undisguised fear. Reggie Thorne smiled coldly, a smile that was not at all cheerful. I am always calm, Chief Inspector, but I am not sure how long your two enthusiastic young officers can keep their composure if they continue to behave in such a foolish manner. He hung up, then slowly turned to look directly at Officer O'Malley and Sergeant Duffy, who were standing frozen like statues beside the patrol car, both of their faces now as pale as banana leaves, without a drop of blood left. They had heard very clearly, without missing a word, the entire conversation between Reggie Thorne and Chief Inspector Mike Miller. Chief Inspector Miller. That name, that title, was like an invisible sledgehammer hitting them straight on the top of their heads, making them dizzy, their faces pale. Did you just talk on the phone to Chief Inspector Mike Miller? Officer O'Malley stuttered, her voice shaking, weak, devoid of any smugness or complacency. Reggie Thorne did not reply. He only gave a sneer, a smile full of contempt, a smile that sent a chill down the spines of the two policemen, as if they had just fallen into an ice cave. Less than 5 minutes later, perhaps only 3 or 4 minutes, 3 jet-black unmarked SUVs from the NYPD's Rapid Response Team, along with a black luxury sedan carrying Chief Inspector Mike Miller himself, rushed to the scene at terrifying speed, sirens blaring, red and blue emergency lights flashing crazily on the roof, tearing apart the noisy atmosphere of Fifth Avenue. Dozens of curious passers-by stopped, surrounded the scene, took out their cell phones to film and take pictures, creating a chaotic scene. Chief Inspector Mike Miller, a tall, white man in his 50s with neatly trimmed gray hair and a smart black suit, stepped out of his sedan before it had even come to a stop, his face solemn, tense, and extremely worried. He did not spare a glance at Officer O'Malley or Sergeant Duffy, but walked straight, with hurried steps, toward Reggie Thorne, who was still standing beside his Rolls-Royce Phantom with a completely nonchalant expression on his face, as if nothing serious had just happened. Mr. Thorne, hello, sir. I am truly deeply sorry for this unacceptable, deeply regrettable incident, Chief Inspector Mike Miller said, his voice filled with remorse and sincerity. This must have been a serious misunderstanding, an unforgivable oversight on the part of my subordinates. Please be kind and forgiving. He turned to look at Officer O'Malley and Sergeant Duffy, and a terrible rage, a rage that he had been trying to suppress, finally burst forth in his eyes. "O'Malley! Duffy! What the hell have you gone to? Do you know who you've just been hitting? Do you want the entire New York Police Department to suffer, to lose face because of your stupidity and lack of thinking?" Chief Inspector Mike Miller didn't wait for them to have any chance to explain or justify, but turned to give a decisive order to the Special Forces officers standing around, their faces filled with murderous intent. "Disarm these two immediately, with their badges and badges. Suspend them indefinitely without pay. Take them straight to the department's Internal Investigation Department for questioning tonight. I will personally supervise this case and make sure they receive the most appropriate punishment." Officer O'Malley and Sergeant Duffy, their faces ashen and without any trace of spirit, were mercilessly escorted away by the Special Forces officers, their police careers, and perhaps their lives of freedom, brought to an ignominious, shameful, and irretrievable end right here on this busy street. Chief Inspector Mike Miller turned back to Reggie Thorne, his face still filled with anger, but now laced with sincere pleading and remorse. "Mr. Thorne, once again, I ask for your forgiveness for this extremely unfortunate incident. We will take the most severe internal measures against the individuals responsible for the violations, and will immediately conduct a review of all work procedures, as well as strengthen professional and ethical training for the entire force, to ensure that similar shameful incidents like this will never, ever be allowed to happen again." Reggie Thorne looked at Chief Inspector Mike Miller for a long time, his eyes sharp and probing, making the Chief Inspector feel a little uncomfortable. Then he slowly said, "Chief Inspector Miller, I don't want to make a big deal out of this anymore, because it won't benefit anyone. But I also can't accept that police officers, who are entrusted with the responsibility of protecting the people, can act unprofessionally, blatantly abuse their power, and carry such racial prejudice. This is not just my personal problem, but it is a serious problem of the whole system, a problem that needs to be solved thoroughly. I hope that you will really take specific, strong actions to change that, not just empty promises." He paused for a moment, looking around at the curious crowd that was still gathering around, many of whom were still holding up their phones to film and take pictures. "Now, if there's nothing else, I'll be on my way. I have a lot of other important things to take care of today." With that, Reggie Thorne calmly and majestically stepped into his luxurious Rolls-Royce Phantom drophead coupe, gently started the engine, and slowly drove the car down Fifth Avenue, leaving behind Chief Inspector Mike Miller with a face full of worry, confusion, and gratitude, along with the crowd still talking excitedly, endlessly about the incident that had just happened. The case of billionaire Reginald Thorne being treated unfairly and racially discriminated against by two NYPD police officers created a quiet but extremely powerful earthquake within the New York Police Department. Officers O'Malley and Duffy were immediately fired from the force and later faced serious criminal investigations for abuse of power and violations of civil rights. Chief Inspector Mike Miller, despite his best efforts to resolve the matter peacefully, was also severely disciplined for his responsibility for poor management and serious violations in his department. Most importantly, this incident forced the NYPD, under pressure from the mayor, the city council, and civil rights organizations, to implement deep, comprehensive reforms in hiring, training, supervision, and disciplinary practices to eliminate racism, cliques, and abuse of power that have persisted in its ranks for many years. For Reggie Thorne, it was just a minor incident, an unnecessary annoyance in a life full of ups and downs and extraordinary successes. But it was also a profound reminder that, even when you have reached the pinnacle of power, wealth, and fame, you can still fall victim to injustice, bigotry, and ignorance. And sometimes, the best way to fight back is not to use force or money directly, but to use a cool head, wisdom, and strategic relationships that you have worked hard to build and nurture over many years. The profound lesson to be learned from this dramatic and ironic story is that true power lies not in the police uniform or the gun in hand, but in intelligence, in wisdom, in the ability to control the situation, and in the invisible but extremely powerful influence. And sometimes, a phone call to the right person, at the right time, can be more powerful than an elite army. What do you think about how billionaire Reginald Thorne handled the extremely tense and unfair situation of being treated disrespectfully and with prejudice by two police officers? Was his decision to use his personal relationship with the NYPD chief inspector a wise, effective, and necessary action under the circumstances? Are the consequences for Officers O'Malley and Duffy, including being fired and facing criminal investigations, and Chief Inspector Miller being disciplined, really proportionate to their wrongdoings and attitudes? Do you think these measures are enough to bring about justice and create real, positive change in the police force? Does this story inspire you to think more deeply about the complex, multidimensional relationship between power, money, social status, and justice in our modern society, especially when faced with pressing issues such as racism, abuse of power by law enforcement, and inequality in the justice system?